how do you decide when to give children a mobile phone? Because the pressure as a parent comes very early, particularly if you've got two children and the older one's got one and the younger one hasn't. It's like, do you give the younger one the phone? So the mobile provider EE has said under 11s shouldn't be given them in order to protect their digital well-being, following growing concerns of the impact on children's attention spans. Recent research by Ofcom found almost a quarter of 5 to 7-year-olds have got their own smartphone. What does a 5-year-old need with a smartphone? Caroline Allams is co-founder of Natterhub, an online safety learning platform for children, and with us on BBC Radio Stoke this afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
What do you make of 11-year-olds and younger children, 5, 6, 7-year-olds having smartphones?
It's a really contentious and complex issue. And I think, of course, you've already outlined some of the potential risk around children having smartphones. We know that the internet was never designed with children in mind. And yet here we are with very young children having access to all of the content that is online. I think it's the pressure that parents feel as well can't be underestimated. Pester power is very strong, but I think it's really important to understand more about screen time and not to assume that all of it is necessarily negative. So there's quite a lot to unpack there around that age bracket.
So what are the main concerns? Is it that it's quite difficult for internet companies, or they just choose not to filter out the kind of more grown-up material from the kind of thing that is suitable for children?
Yeah, I mean, of course, the algorithms are in full swing and children are being exposed to inappropriate content, which really is putting the whole concept of childhood at risk. But we know that children do need computational skills. We know that safe exposure to technology is what will build digital resilience and online savvy. So the risks that are around children's online vulnerability really need to be in the forefront of all parents and educators' minds, and looking really carefully at what builds the soft skills that underpin that really powerful digital citizenship. And that's not to say that we need to responsibilize children with their own online safety, because of course there's so much that the key players can do. And, I am really hopeful that in time and with the noise that's being created around protecting children online, what will come out of this is a far more careful monitoring of the algorithms that will reduce that online vulnerability. Because, of course, it's got to be possible to remove the kind of content that we're all concerned about out of children's news feed. So that's the extreme violence, the abusive or misogynistic content, the hate, the sexualized content. It's really important that we do everything and put pressure on the companies to remove that from our children's feeds. But also, I think there's a lot that we can do as parents and educators to be hand in hand with our children. And you asked the question, why does an 11-year-old and younger need a mobile phone? Well, the answer really is they probably don't need one. It's that they would like to have one. But having your own mobile phone under the age of 11 and having your own social media accounts is very different from exposing children in a safe way to different online material and learning the skills to communicate safely and exploring creative content. We want to really make sure that we are taking away that passive exposure to what's often termed doom scrolling, but really enable children to get the best out of technology, because there are so many positives with allowing children safe exposure to being online.
Panorama tonight is looking at something. I don't know if you've seen the BBC News article about this. How social media algorithms show violence to boys is how it's been written up. And one of the points that I'd never really considered, I suspect you might have done, Caroline, is because of what boys spend time looking at on social media particularly compared to girls, and obviously these are huge generalisations, but they give an example of a young lad who's into Ultimate Fighting Championship, which is a sport. It kind of combines boxing and wrestling and martial arts. Some would say it is quite brutal. But because he was looking at films like that, he then found himself being sent stuff from controversial influencers with more extreme content, more violent content and so on. Whereas according to this, that I'm just reading off the BBC News website, girls of the same age have been recommended videos on topics such as music and makeup rather than violence, he says. Maybe there's something in that needs looking at and talking about too.
Absolutely, and I think for some time we've been aware of the gendered issue around girls being vulnerable online and so frequently targeted as victims of coerced approaches to creating inappropriate content and girls who are being groomed. But I think it's absolutely timely that we also raise the issue around the content that is being fed to children, mainly boys, around that extreme violence, that abuse. And the algorithms use, reinforcement learning. So as long as somebody looks at a video, and we know that children may be afraid of some content, but are curious and find it difficult to self-regulate. So as soon as they are captured, their attention is captured by a video, the algorithm will learn that, this is the kind of material that you want to see more of. And once they're exposed to that content, it becomes really unavoidable that, they'll see more of the same.
What can we as parents and grandparents do to help support healthy development of this relationship with smartphones? And I think we do have a relationship with smartphones, whether we want to admit to it or not, don't we?
Yeah, we absolutely do. And I think addressing the fact that we as parents, I'm a parent as well as an educator, we also are distracted by our phones and we're modeling this behavior to our children. So having an awareness of that. And also, I think under 11, we really need to be focused on removing automatic access to the internet. In the same way that we know that just because there's a zebra crossing to cross a busy road, we still, want to hold our children's hands or make sure that they are safely crossing across that zebra crossing. We need to be on this digital journey with our children. And what that looks like is having frequent, regular conversations around the kinds of content that they're being exposed to, around the issues that they might find interesting online, having our children physically close to us when they are using the internet. This is under 11s. Really avoiding technology in private spaces, in bedrooms, where it's so much more difficult to monitor. And as much as it's easy to get lost from just a few minutes of relaxation, looking at something enjoyable online, it's so easy for that to turn into prolonged periods of time. And of course, children need high quality interactions. They need interpersonal and shared engagement. They need so much more. They need such a rounded exposure during those primary school years. And often time spent on technology robs that time away from, sharing books or physical activity or spending time outside or even having the freedom to play and take risks of another sort. Because children will, usually gravitate towards a screen. So whilst it's no easy challenge for parents, I think it's important to remember that we are parents, digital parents, as well as face-to-face parents.
I find the digital bit the hardest, to be honest. Caroline, thank you so much for your time. Caroline Allams, co-founder of Natterhub, with us on BBC Radio Stoke. EE, the mobile provider, says it aims to improve children's digital well-being after receiving increasing requests for guidance from parents. The guidance now is children under 11 shouldn't be given smartphones in order to protect their digital well-being.